Started the stream with my mic muted.
Ah, and you know what's funny? I was giving this big speech about how Marvel has changed my life. How typical is that? Yep. R.I.P. Rip. Rips in the chat. Rips in the chat. Let's try this again. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Stevie Luke here. Ah, that's so typical. So, if you're watching live or if you're watching in the replay, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys so much for taking your time to hang out with me and watch my videos. It means a lot to me. I can't tell you how much it means to me. And I just wanted to take this time to just say how much Marvel has changed my life. What Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers and everybody else over at Marvel Studios has done, Joss Whedon, what everybody has done, it's absolutely insane. It's never been done before, and it probably will never be done again. I mean, I don't even know if Marvel can do that again. Think about all that they've done. 10 years of movies, over 20 movies leading to one movie. And here we are. Here we are. And here's another cool piece of news that I noticed. Avengers Avengers Endgame, I should say, has already reached $1 billion in the global box office. That's crazy. Has that ever been done before? Has any other movie ever reached $1 billion in one weekend? I've never heard of a movie that's done that, because that's absolutely insane. And that's any indication of what's to come. Oh boy, man. So this is my Avengers Endgame spoiler review. So yes, if you're in the chat, if you're watching on the live replay and you haven't seen Avengers Endgame,
Spoiler warning.
that's the only one you're going to get. All right. What's going on, Yellow Fellow? What's going on, Fatal Gamer? What's going on, Jonathan Atkins? Thank you guys so much for being here. And I'm going to be jumping around a little bit, guys. I'm going to try to go in order of the movie. Obviously, I've only seen it once so far, so I might jump around a little bit. So if you're wondering why did he skip all the way to the end when we're talking about the beginning, that's the reason why. So I'm going to start off saying right now that the beginning of this movie, I kind of expected that, because the Russo brothers had already said that Thanos and the Gauntlet were irreparably damaged. They were both damaged. The Gauntlet couldn't be used anymore. The stones couldn't be used anymore. And Thanos was injured badly after the battle with the Avengers. So I had a feeling that in the beginning of the movie that they were going to have Thanos be killed, because especially once Captain Marvel started walking and she was like, I'm gonna go kill Thanos, I was like, oh yeah, you are gonna go kill Thanos. And that brought up a host of different questions for me. I was like, okay, where are they gonna go with the movie now? Who is actually gonna be the villain of this movie? Is it still gonna be Thanos? Like, what are they gonna do with this movie here? And when they went to the Thanos' home planet and everybody showed up and they were all just attacking him, I was like, oh wow. What are they gonna do? Especially after Thor sliced off his head.
I went for the head.
Should have gone for the head in Infinity War, pal. But especially after Thor did that, I wondered where they were gonna go with the movie. And then we moved on to Ant-Man coming back and them learning about time travel. Which, by the way, can we just give a shout out to that rat that was in the van? Because if that rat hadn't been in the van messing with the controls, then Ant-Man would not have gotten out of the quantum realm. So shout out to the rat. Like, come on now. So after that happened, they started going through the whole time travel thing, and they went to go get Tony and this and that and yada, yada, yada. Which, by the way, Tony's daughter, cutest father-daughter relationship I've ever seen on screen. Because he's still being like sarcastic Tony, but you can still see that he loves his daughter and he loves Pepper and that he's done with this hero life. He's done being Iron Man and he doesn't want to go back to it. So with Cap and Natasha and Scott all showing up at his house, at his cabin in the woods, Like, he's just like, no, I don't want to do this. And I would have done the same thing in his position. And then they started with the whole time travel thing. Then he figured it out, which leave it to Tony to figure out time travel. Like, come on now. Jonathan Atkins says the rat is the MVP of this movie. I agree. Like I said, if that rat hadn't gotten Scott out of the van, the Avengers Endgame would never have happened. Fader Gamer says, in this movie, you see more heart with Tony Stark. Absolutely. Look at how much he's changed from Iron Man to this movie. Like, for real now. So moving right along, Avengers all get back together and this and that. So they assemble their team of with Nebula and Rocket and Hulk and Thor. Oh, which speaking of which, that reminds me. Some people didn't like what they did with Hulk and Thor. They didn't like how they had changed their characters so drastically and so quickly. So I want you guys to jump in the chat or jump down in the comments section. What did you guys think of Hulk and Thor's characters in this movie? And if you guys have no idea why they did that, or that you have no idea, like you just don't like it, let me explain. What they did with Hulk. So Hulk in this movie, like being the combination of Banner and Mad Raging Hulk, that's from the comics, and it's called Professor Hulk. It's where Bruce Banner in the comics actually figures out how to merge Hulk and himself. So they did that with the movies too. I wish that they had shown that. I wish they had shown that. I wish they had shown how Bruce figured out how he could merge himself and Hulk together, but they didn't, and they just skipped right to it. So I can see why people would be upset with that, because he was a lot more like moderated. Like I'm not gonna lie, we didn't get to see him go Hulk crazy in this movie, and that made me kind of sad. We didn't get to see him Hulk smash anything. He was very much like Bruce Banner in Hulk's body. Like he was more the scientist in this one, so they might as well have just left him as Bruce Banner at that point. So I don't know. I still thought it was pretty cool. It was pretty funny though, some of the things that he did. So, for example, when he's trying to figure out time travel and he's sending Scott in and out of the van, it keeps coming back as an old man, then a baby, and then a little guy, and then Bruce goes time travel as soon as he gets him back. It made me laugh. What's up, Red Brick 777? I like Thor's new look because it reminded me of Thor from God of War 4. Nah, yeah, that's true. Jonathan Atkins says, I think that's bound to happen with the 5-year jump. Characters change. Bruce was trying to get with Hulk since Infinity War, and Thor was on the brink of depression during the beginning of Endgame. You are absolutely correct. So that's another thing that So anytime people say to me, like, I didn't like what they did with Hulk and Thor, I was like, well, I could understand that. You know, people like the Mad Raging Hulk, and that's pretty cool, and he has some pretty funny moments. And we did get to see some funny moments with Hulk in this movie. For example, no more stairs. Boom. We got to see some funny moments with Hulk. As far as Thor goes, I mean, it makes sense. Think about it. He lost his people. He lost his brother. He got his ass whooped by Thanos. And when he finally came back and beat Thanos, it didn't matter. Thanos still won with the snap. And when they got back to him and ended up killing him, it still didn't matter. So Thor felt powerless. So obviously he's going to sink in depression. Obviously he's going to start drinking. Obviously he's going to do all these things that normal humans would do. Because think about it. Thor has spent a lot of time around humans and he's picked up a lot of their traits. So he's going to do a lot of things that humans would do. He sinks into depression. He starts drinking, and that turns into big fat belly Thor. There you go. But as soon as Thanos showed up again, he changed back. Remember, as long as we're in agreement, summons the lightning and then brings out Stormbreaker and brings out Mjolnir, which, by the way, Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, like watching him wield both of them was insane. I loved it. Going back to the chat, Fatal Gamer says most of the theories in this movie are true. It's crazy. Isn't that right? Stuff we never thought we would see happen actually happened. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Yellow Fellow said, I personally loved Thor in this movie as the depressed alcoholic who feels like he failed. It fits with his arc. Kind of feels like he was a little underpowered, though. You got to think about this, though. He's fat, he's out of shape, and he's emotionally like in a wreck. So obviously he's not going to be at the same strength he was in Infinity War. He was still pretty freaking powerful, though. Fatal Gamer says Thor was treated as kind of a joke in this movie. Exactly, though. He was supposed to be a joke. Think back to Thor Ragnarok. The kind of Thor that we got in this movie was the same kind of Thor that we got in Thor Ragnarok. Funny, kind of not taking things seriously, more of like a comic relief type of thing. And think about it. That was the most popular Thor up to this point. So I liked that Thor in this movie. Jonathan Atkins says Thor still got a lot of good moments to shine in this film. Absolutely correct. So moving right along, let's talk about the time travel thing. I thought that was a very clever way of going down memory lane with the MCU. They jump into the quantum realm and they go back to different moments in time, all of them separating. We had some of the guys that went back to the first battle in the Avengers movie. Some of the guys went to Doctor Strange's place, the Sanctum. Some of them went to Vormir. Some of them went to I forgot what the other Lord found the Power Stone. I forget. Anyways, I thought that was an ingenious way to go back down memory lane. It reminded you, like, wow, think back to way back when the first Avengers movie came out and the Chitauri were invading New York. And we got to see, they showed the iconic shot where they're panning around all the Avengers together. It was just great. It made me laugh. It made me get a little bit emotional thinking about it. It made me remember the journey that we've come through. So I thought that was a great way of looking back on all the movies that led up to this point. And we got to see some really cool, like, interactions, too. We got to see Bruce interact with the Ancient One. We got to see Hawkeye and Nat together again. One of the lines I laughed the hardest at in this movie was when Hawkeye turns to Black Widow and he goes, "We're a long way from Budapest now." It's like, what happened to Budapest? We never got to figure that out. So, and what else did we get to see? We got to see Tony and Cap back together again. It was just an all-around great way to move the different pieces of the movie together. Act 2 was really, really good in this movie. Some people thought that it was kind of boring and it was moving kind of slow. Movies aren't going to be go, go, go the entire time. Infinity War is the sole exception to that. But even Infinity War had some slow moments. So movies aren't going to be go, go, go the whole time. They need to have a slow rise towards the end. And boy, oh boy, did this movie have a slow rise towards the end. The crescendo of this movie was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. It was the single greatest battle in cinema that I've ever seen. Better than anything I've ever seen on film before. Better than anything in Lord of the Rings. Better than anything in The Hobbit. Better than anything in Star Wars. Better than anything in what else? Anything else. It was the greatest battle I've ever seen. Maybe because I'm such a superhero fan. Greatest battle I've ever seen. Thanos comes to the present, I guess you can call it. The younger Thanos comes to the present, thanks to the fake Nebula. And we get to see the battle that we always wanted to see. Iron Man, Cap, and Thor versus Thanos. And whew, man, that was absolutely insane. Insane. I'm just reading chat, guys. If I see anything that pops out, I want to talk about it. Jonathan Atkins says, I like that Tony and Cap's relationship was still rocky in the beginning. They're not going to be best friends after that fight in Civil War. Absolutely not. Especially after losing to Thanos. And Tony threw that right back in Cap's face. He said that you said that we would lose together. And we weren't together when we lost. So yeah. So anyways, going back to that epic battle scene. Let's start in the beginning of the battle scene where Thor, Cap, and Iron Man are just teaming up against Thanos, the big three, the great three, going after Thanos. I guess you call them Marvel's Trinity, going after Thanos, and just, man, when I say that my heart was like, it was going a million miles a minute, man. Like, that was an absolutely a crazy battle sequence between the three of them. They each had a moment to showcase their powers. Iron Man had that lightning redistributor, and Thor did, and Thor got some good shots in on Thanos with Stormbreaker, man. And then we get Cap's moment.
we get the one thing that I always wanted to see ever since Age of Ultron. Cap got to wield Mjolnir. The theater that I was in was mostly quiet. The theater that I go to, people don't really get rowdy and go crazy. When people saw in my theater, the one that I was in, when people saw Cap catch that hammer, the crowd went wild. And I have never gone to a movie that made people in this theater go crazy. The one that I go to, people never go crazy or cheer or clap or yell. They are always silent and like respectful. But when people saw Cap grab that hammer, it was, woo! Like, they went crazy, me included. And because it was just such a special moment, because it was a fan theory that we never thought we'd get to see. And the Russo brothers were like, nah, we'll give this one to you. We'll let you guys have this one. And oh my God, how absolutely crazy that was. Mjolnir working with the shield, like Cap going at Thanos. I was like, oh my God. And then he had the power of Thor with the lightning. It was insane. And then he was like doing like shield combos with Mjolnir, like he was hitting Mjolnir the way that they did together in Age of Ultron to make the shockwave happen. And I was just like, oh my God. Oh, there's nothing that can top this. And then we get Sam coming over the radio. Well, first, let me backtrack for a second. That one shot where Cap has his broken shield. And Thanos says to him, you know, whenever I destroyed planets and people, it was never personal, but I'm going to enjoy what I'm about to do to your planet. And then his whole army comes out. The one shot where Cap tightens up his shield, he stands up, and you see this wide shot. It's Thanos' army on one side, and you see Cap standing there by himself on the other side. If I'm going to be honest, I thought that was it for Cap. I thought that it was over. And he's standing there, he's facing Thanos' army all by himself, and he's saying, oh, if I have to be the only one that fights you, I'll fight. As long as one person's left standing to oppose you, Thanos, we ain't backing down. And then you hear Sam come on over the radio, and he says that iconic callback line to Winter Soldier, on your left. And then we see the portal show up. And all the people that had been snapped and all the people that have been dusted are walking out of the portals. Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Guardians, Black Panther, Shuri, everyone that had been snapped are walking out of the portals. And then even more people start showing up. We have the rest of the Wakandan army. We had the rest of the sorcerers. We had the rest of the Asgardians. We had Pepper show up in her Iron Man suit. It was almost too much for me to understand. We had Hope show back up again as the Wasp. I broke down. I couldn't contain myself anymore. I was like, and then the Avengers theme in the background was playing. And you get that wide shot of the whole army. And then we get Cap yelling that iconic line, Avengers Assemble. I lost it. I couldn't help myself. Greatest battle ever. And then we had Captain Marvel show up. Oh, I'm going to go read some of the chat, and then we'll get to that. All right. Let's see. Fatal Gamer says, Cap with the hammer. I was in shock. I knew it. That was badass. I agree. Jonathan Atkins says, some people were confused how Cap could use the lightning, but Odin himself said that whoever so worthy of wielding Thor's hammer shall inherit the power of Thor. Yep. That's how Cap is able to use the lightning. He inherits the powers of Thor, not just the hammer. Fatal Gamer again says, it was a great time for Cap to say Avengers Assemble. It was the perfect time. And we knew that Marvel was saving that line for this movie. He almost said it in the first Avengers movie, almost said it in Age of Ultron, never got to say it in Infinity War. We knew they were saving that line for this movie. They teased it all the way up to this point. Mukund Kumar, what's up, dude? Last 30 minutes is the best. Yes, it is. Last 30 minutes is the greatest thing I've ever seen in a movie. That's just me, though. That's just my opinion. Fatal Gamer says, I cried and laughed. Yeah, I'm laughing and crying at the same time. Jonathan Atkins says, my favorite moments in that battle was definitely Wanda versus Thanos and Ant-Man punching a Leviathan worm. Yes! Oh, when Giant Man, as he's called when he's big, when Giant Man was just like, boom, knocking down the gigantic creature floating in the sky that Hulk took down in the first Avengers movie. Oh, it was insane. I went crazy. There was just nerdgasms all over the place for that last 30 minutes of that movie. And now let's get to the one moment that I thought really cool, but could have been less obvious. The moment where Captain Marvel takes the Iron Man made Infinity Gauntlet that Peter was clutching, and hi, I'm Peter Parker. Hey there, Peter Parker. You got something for me? And then she took the gauntlet, and he's like, how are we going to get through all that? And then all the women of Marvel show up to band together. I was like, okay, all right. It's really cool that they wanted to throw that girl power moment up in there, but they could have made it just a little bit less obvious that they were doing that. But think about it for a second. Imagine how cool that would have been for a little girl in the theater to see all those strong, powerful superheroes that were girls, that were women, banding together just like that. I bet it was very inspiring for some women in the world. So that was an awesome moment. And then they're all teaming up and they all took out Thanos together. And yeah. I thought, oh, why does the phone always ring when I'm trying to do a live stream? Man, just ignore that, guys. I don't know if you guys can hear that phone, but just ignore it. So, and then Wanda. Let's talk about Scarlet Witch for a second. Scarlet Witch is absolutely one of the most powerful Avengers, without a doubt. She shows up, she goes down, and she's like, you could just see the pain and rage on her face. And she goes to Thanos, you took everything from me. And this Thanos doesn't know what he's done yet. This Thanos hasn't gotten all the Infinity Stones yet. So he's like, I don't even know who you are. What are you talking about? And the way that she says, you will. And then everything just starts glowing red. I was like, oh boy, you made Scarlet Witch mad. And then she's like ripping him apart, just ripping him apart, about to tear him asunder. And he says to his ship, rain, fire, and then all the shooting comes down. And then, people are getting destroyed and stuff like that. And it was able to set him free. And then Captain Marvel makes her grand entrance. I thought it was really good. I'll hop over to the chat for a second. Let's see. Red Brick 777 says thoughts on the time travel and how they explained it. Earlier in the stream, we talked about that. Once again, I think it was a great, ingenious way of bringing us back down memory lane, of bringing us back to all the movies that happened beforehand, and it was just a great way of like showing us the journey that we've been on. So I liked the time travel, and then how they explained it. To be honest, the way Professor Hulk was explaining time travel, I got a little bit confused and I wasn't really following. And at that point, I really didn't care. All that mattered to me was that they were time traveling. So I was like, all right, okay, they're time traveling. Cool. And it was saying all the stuff about past becoming the present and the present becoming the past and something like that. I don't know. It was confusing to me, but I guess they were trying to have it be as realistic as possible. So I'm fine with it. Fatal Game, Cap Marvel got punched to the funeral scene. Hey, man, a blast from the Power Stone is going to knock you out. It's going to knock you out. Let's be real. A headbutt didn't do nothing, though. And Thanos, boom, and then Captain Marvel was just like, that's all you got. That was a really cool scene. Mukun says, I am inevitable. I am Iron Man. I was just getting to that, dude. I was just getting to that. Okay, so now let's get to the part where I cried the most. The part where Tony dies. And all right. Let's just take it from here. Ready? Thanos got the gauntlet. He's putting it on. Captain Marvel delays him for a second. And he lifts the gauntlet. He's about to do the snap. Tony sees it. He's close enough to do something. He has an idea. You can see it on his face. He has an idea in his head, and he wants to do it, but he's afraid to because he knows that he'll probably die. Then he looks across the battlefield, and he sees Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange just goes like this. 1, referring to all the different battle sequences that he had witnessed with the Time Stone in Infinity War. He was sitting cross-legged, and he had said that they only win one time. Then he sacrificed the Time Stone for Tony to live, and then everybody knew that in order for them to beat Thanos, Tony had to be alive for this exact moment. Him going like this confirmed it. Tony jumps at Thanos, grabs the gauntlet, tries to pull it off, or at least we think he's trying to pull it off. Instead, when it turned out that he had really taken all the Infinity Stones off of it instead, I was like, wow, that's great. That's great. And then we get the scene that Mukund is talking about. All throughout this movie, Thanos was saying, I am inevitable. I am inevitable. And he lifts the gauntlet up. He goes, I am inevitable. Clink. Nothing happens. He looks over at the gauntlet. He's like, oh no, the stones are gone. Sees Tony. Tony had a different gauntlet hands ready to go, apparently, because he's always prepared. The stones were all in it. And he goes, and I am Iron Man. Even though I knew he was going to say that, as soon as he said, and I am, I know he's going to say, I knew he was going to say Iron Man. It was still an amazing moment to me. It was absolutely incredible because those are the words that started this whole thing. The final scene in Iron Man all those years ago, the last thing Tony said was, I am Iron Man. It was also his last words too. And then we realized that, wait a minute, Hulk said that he's the only one that can survive that. Turns out he was right. Even though Tony snaps his fingers, wipes out Thanos' army and Thanos himself, which, by the way, love that poetic justice. Thanos getting dusted. Loved that poetic justice. That was great. And then we see the moment Tony's just, he's down and out for the count. He's just out of it. You can just see it on his face. He's done. He's like, he has this gazing off into the distance. And then we get that one little moment where the three people that had meant the most to him throughout this whole series. First off, we have Rhodey. He goes down, placing the hand on his shoulder. Man, that's when I started like getting a little bit emotional about it. And then Peter Parker comes over. He's like, "Oh, Mr. Stark, you know, we won. It's okay. You know, stay with me, Mr. Stark." And he's starting to cry. And I'm like, "Man, don't do this to me, man." I started getting emotional. And then Pepper came over, and I was like, "All right, that's it. Floodgates open. Floodgates open. Let it all out." Especially when she sat down to him and she said, "Tony, look at me. We're going to be okay. We can take care of ourselves." I was like, "No, please." Oh, even though I knew it was going to happen. And then Tony dies. And then he gets one of the greatest send-offs I've ever seen in a Marvel movie. That funeral scene. Everybody's standing there working its way through, showing everybody, and everybody was there. And if you guys are wondering who that teenager was in the back, close to the porch, that was the kid from Iron Man 3. I'm sure I didn't pick up on that. I'm sure I'm not the only one that picked up on that. But just in case you didn't, and you were like, "Who's that kid in the back? I've never seen him before in the Marvel movie." That's the kid from Iron Man 3. Decided to bring him back for Tony's funeral. I thought that was great. And then we see Nick Fury walk onto the porch. And I was like, there it is. The two men that started this all when Nick Fury showed up in Tony's house. And he said, "I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative." And that started this whole train. He ended it as well. The symbolism was so powerful that I almost couldn't contain myself. Like I almost couldn't. It was too much. It was too much. So that funeral scene was the best funeral scene. My personal opinion, the only funeral scene that comes close to that one was Yondu's. I don't think there was any other death in the MCU that had a funeral that was like that one. So I'm going to jump over to the chat real quick. Fatal Gamer says Tony's last words were, "Hey, Pepper." Yes, they were. Yes, they were. I thought it would have been funnier if they had him say, "Hey, Miss Potts." But yeah, Hey Pepper was really that got me. Yellow Fellow says when Doctor Strange motioned with the one finger to Tony, it felt like time stopped for me. I knew there and then he was going to die, and I couldn't handle it. Yep, that's when you knew. Jonathan Atkins says you can rest now. Oh yeah, man. Think about it. Tony has done so much for the Avengers. He's made mistakes. He's made mistakes. He created Ultron. He's made mistakes. But he's done a lot of things too. And the Avengers, they definitely would not have been able to do all that they did without Tony. No way. And Red Brick 777 says Iron Lad. Yeah, imagine if they had that kid like take up the Iron Man like he takes up the mantle of Iron Man. That'd be so cool. Fatal Gamer says Kid Off was so sweet. I loved it. Now we're getting to that now. Yes. Good there, Fatal Gamer. So Tony and Cap were the two characters that I knew were not going to be moving on after this movie. I knew that after this movie, they were done. Either they were retiring, either they were retiring or they were going to die. I knew that we weren't going to see them again after this movie. So Tony was the one that ended up dying. Cap is the one that ended up retiring. So once they had Cap be the one to step into the time travel like field again to bring the stones and Mjolnir back to their time, I knew that he wasn't going to come back, because one of the theories that people had was that when they go to time travel, that he would want to stay back in time with Peggy. And when he saw Peggy, when they were getting the Tesseract and the Pym particles, when they saw Peggy, I thought that that was actually going to happen. And turns out that it did. He went back in time and he didn't come back. And then we get to see like 95-year-old Cap. And he's sitting there on the bench because he knew that this was the moment that he went back in time. It didn't come back. And then we get one of the most polarizing events in the MCU history. Cap chose Sam to be Captain Marvel over Bucky. At first, I thought the moment was great. It's like Sam and Cap, first of all, I wanted Bucky to be over there as well. But then I realized, you know what? Cap probably already had his moment with Bucky off screen. That line that Bucky said, you're taking all the stupid with you. I don't know how many of you guys picked up on that. That's a callback to the first Captain America movie, Captain America, the First Avenger. Cap actually said that to Bucky. So that was a good callback. And I thought, you know what? Cap probably already told Bucky that that's what he was going to do. Because think about it. Bucky didn't seem all that surprised when Cap didn't show back up. And then he was the one that told Sam, go over to that bench over there. And there was Cap. He was the one that told Sam that. So I thought Bucky already knew that Cap was going to do that. And so Sam got to have his final moment with Cap. And Cap gave him the shield. And that one line, Sam, Cap asked, how does it feel? And Sam goes, like it belongs to someone else. It doesn't. I was like, wow, so simple, yet so powerful. Sam has been ride or die with Cap ever since Cap met him. Sam's been ride or die with him. He's been loyal. He's been a great fighter. He's been a great soldier. He's been a great Avenger. So yeah, I was like, why not? Why not have it be Sam to pick up the mantle of Captain America? Bucky would have been like a more emotional, I think, a more emotional of a moment, rather, I should say. But think about this for a second. Bucky is still technically a fugitive from the government. Technically. He had to hide in Wakanda. The Wakandans were trying to get what was ever in his head out of his head, the whole Hydra stuff. So Bucky really wasn't a good choice to pick up the Captain America mantle, at least not in this MCU continuity. You know what I mean? Bucky, I think that he'll be next. If Sam ends up giving it up or dying, I think that Bucky will be next. But I think Sam is a good first choice to relieve Steve Rogers of the mantle. So I'm going to go over to the chat, see what some people think about Cap giving it to Sam. Fatal Gamer says, I'm fine with Falcon being Cap, even though I wanted it to be Bucky. Yeah, I'm fine with that's what I said too. At first I wanted it to be Bucky, but then I realized Sam makes a lot more sense. Yellow Fellow says, you're not the one to make the sacrifice play. He sacrificed his life for the universe. Everything special about you came out of a bottle. He managed to lift Thor's hammer and go toe-to-toe with Thanos. Right? Both of them were taking shots at each other that absolutely were not true. Absolutely were not true. Fatal Gamer says the theater clapped when everyone saw RDJ in the credits. It made emotional seeing everyone in the credits. Yeah, in my theater too, people were clapping for everybody. Like I said, everybody that came up. Like at first, they started clapping for Jeremy Renner and Scarlett, then Bruce, or I guess Mark, I should say, because I'm using the real names now. They started clapping for everybody, and then when Robert Downey Jr. showed up, they started cheering and yay! It was really emotional to see everybody sign off like that. That was really emotional. Fatal Gamer also says, and sadly, no post credits. Yeah, I'm not really sad though, because they don't need a post credit scene. We already know what the next movie is going to be. It's going to be Spider-Man Far From Home. And then after that, we don't know what's coming. So I'm good for now. So here's what I'm going to do right now, guys. If you're still watching, thank you guys so much for being here. Make sure to hit that like button. If you're watching on the replay, thank you guys so much for that as well. I am now going to open up the discussions. I'm just going to read the chat, see what all you guys think. So if you're here watching live, jump in the chat. Let me know your thoughts about Avengers Endgame, favorite scene, things you didn't like, things you did like. What did you think about the movie in general? And if you're watching in the replay, jump down in the comment section and do the same. All right, here we go. Jonathan Atkins says, I think the absence of a post-credit scene helped this movie feel like a real conclusion. Boom. Yes, sir. I agree with that. Mukund Kumar says, I don't like the ending. Why not? I mean, I guess, I guess it's sad to see Cap and Tony go because they're like the cornerstones. And Thor going off with the Guardians was a little unexpected. But yeah, I think we'll still get some good movies out of it. And, just because Steve Rogers isn't Captain America anymore doesn't mean we won't see him in any Marvel movies ever again. He might still make a cameo here and there. So Fatal Gamer says, I loved every part of this movie. Same, bro. We're on the same wavelength there. Yeah, I did forget to talk about that, didn't I? When Cap was fighting himself and the Cap from the, that timeline was like, I can do this all day. And then our Cap was like, yeah, I heard that one before. Fatal Gamer says, a true love letter from Marvel. Absolutely. And I saw that in my spoiler-free review, which I made into a video that I posted. Yes, you guys can go check that out after this live stream if you haven't seen it yet. And I talk more about like what this movie has done for me and how that this movie was made for us. This movie wasn't made for money. It wasn't made for fame. It wasn't made to break records. This movie was made as a nod to the fans. This movie was made from the Russo brothers. They were tipping their hat to us. Kevin Feige, he was tipping his hat to us, saying, thank you guys for sticking with us for these past 10 years, past 11 years. Literally, that's all it was. And it couldn't have been better. It was awesome. Jonathan, once again, says, even more excited for Guardians 3 if Thor will be in it. I hope Thor will be in Guardians, but I'm not quite sure they're going to do that. I don't know. I hope Thor will be in Guardians. Don't you guys feel like if Thor is in Guardians, it's kind of going to take away from the rest of them, though? Like, I feel like Thor might overshadow them a little bit because he's such a popular character in Marvel. We'll have to see, though. Red Brick says, I think this movie was the best conclusion of any movie I have seen. Yes, I agree with that as well. This cinematic universe has done so much. It's done so much, and no other movie franchise will ever be able to replicate it. Not even Star Wars. Star Wars is the only one that comes close. Star Wars is the only movie franchise that comes close to this, and they still haven't been able to outmatch Marvel. So I don't think anything is going to be able to do better than this. Yellow Fellow says, am I the only one who wants to see Cap return Soul Stone to Red Skull? Yeah, I kind of would have wanted to see that moment as well. Just to, see the interaction between the two of them. But yeah, you know what? Red Skull probably just would have been like, hey, what's up, pal? Yeah, there probably wouldn't have been too much banter between the two of them because think about it. Red Skull wasn't spouting any nonsense about a perfect world when he was on Vormir, so I guess he had changed a little bit. He was the keeper of the Soul Stone now, so didn't really have any time for thinking Hail Hydra. Fatal Gamer says the future of the MCU is bright. X-Men, Fantastic Four, Namor, and many more characters. Yeah, I definitely want to see them do some stuff with X-Men and Fantastic Four. Absolutely, without a doubt. Deadpool as well. I want to see some good Deadpool movies coming out. And Disney has already said that they'll probably keep Deadpool pretty much the way that he is. They're not going to change what Ryan Reynolds has done with it. So that's good to know. Atkins says, Far From Home is going to be hurt. Is going to hurt because you just know they're going to go over Peter losing his mentor. Not ready for that. I mean, we still don't know if it's before Infinity War or after. Or did they confirm? I forget. Maybe it is after Endgame. I don't know. If it is, then yes, we're gonna have to deal with Peter losing Tony, and we're gonna have to deal with that. They did confirm it's after Endgame. Okay, all right. Well, then yeah, we're about to have to deal with Peter losing his mentor. And that's going to be so sad because let's say that one of the moments that made me tear up in this movie was when Spider-Man came back and he went right up to Tony. He was like, Mr. Stark, we're here. And I don't know what happened. Like, we were fighting Thanos and, I got all dusty and then I must have passed out because then when I woke up, Dr. Strange was saying, it's been 5 years. We got to save. And he's like just rattling on. And Tony's just watching him with like this look on his face of just such relief and caring. And then he goes up and he just hugs him. It made me tear. I was like, oh wow, this is nice. It made me tear up. I was like, wow, that is so special. Because think of all that Peter has done for Tony, and Tony just wants to make Tony proud, and he did. And Tony finally showed Peter that he made him proud. So that moment was really special. Yellow Fellow says, I'm pretty sure the Loki TV show will follow the Loki from the alternate reality where he escapes with the Tesseract. Maybe. But you got to think about it. When they put the Infinity Stones back at the end of Endgame, that technically didn't happen. Technically. So I don't think it's going to follow that. I think it'll follow more of Loki's life. You know what I mean? Like beforehand. It's going to be a prequel. Anybody that's getting a show that's been dead is going to get a prequel show. That's what it's going to be. Fatal Gamer says Sony better not reboot Spidey after Far From Home. Yep. They probably shouldn't do that. I'd love to see them cross the Venomverse with Spidey, though. I would love to see Marvel and Sony cross over with the Venomverse because that would be great to see, Tom Holland Spider-Man interact with why am I blanking on his name? Oh, why am I blanking on his name? Who played Venom? Tom Hardy. Man, I'm an idiot. I'd love to see Tom Holland Spider-Man interact with Tom Hardy Venom. That'd be pretty cool. Fatal Gamer once again said because Sony is using him for their own universe. Yeah. Are they though? Because Marvel and Sony are in agreement right now. So hopefully they'll just use Tom Holland Spider-Man and keep everything in the same continuity. Dimitar, hello, dude. What's going on? Says, I guessed that Thanos would die after. I guessed that Thanos would die at the first act. Me too, pal. I knew they were probably going to do that because when Captain Marvel said that we're going to go get Thanos and they were all traveling, through space to him, I realized Thanos is not going to put up a fight. Thanos did what he set out to do, and he's hurt. You know what I mean? He can't fight the way that he did, so he's not going to put up a fight. There we go. And Yellow Fellow says, all right, I've got to go. Love your videos, 3000. Oh, thank you, Yellow Fellow. See you later, dude. I love your videos, 3000. Yeah, like I said before earlier on in the stream, for those of you who weren't here, I love the relationship between Tony and his daughter. It is one of the cutest parent-child relationships I've ever seen on screen. It's just incredible. All right, guys. Well, we've been going for 45 minutes now. I'm going to take a few more things from the chat, and then I'm going to get going because I'm tired now. I need a nap. Jonathan Atkins says, I loved how they managed Gamora in this film. The moment she saw future Thanos die on the recording, she knew she was on the wrong side. Yes, sir. I agree with that. Also, really funny was when Star-Lord saw Gamora and he was like, you're alive. And she was just like, get away from me. And kicked him in the balls. That was great. All right, guys. I'm going to get going. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. This movie blew me away. Obviously, it blew you guys away too. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'm going to do more live streams just like this one for like Star Wars, for Spider-Man Far From Home, and stuff like that, and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll see you guys really soon. Stay tuned for some reactions later on this week. I'm going to be reacting to how Captain Marvel should have ended. Slifer2812 put out another edit. Trailer Blend put out another edit. So I'm going to go check those out for later on this week. And yeah, we got one more thing from the chat. Fatal Gamers once again says, it hit my heart when Tony says, I love you 3000. Did you know that 3000 is the total minutes of all the MCU movies? No, I didn't know that. That's so cool. 3000 minutes. Wow, that's a lot. Damn. All righty then, guys. Well, I'll see you guys later. If you're watching in the replay, jump down in the comment section. Let me know your favorite parts of Endgame. And once again, my name is Stevie Luke, and I'll catch you later.